Imagine taking a test in school that decides whether you'll graduate or you won't. The whole room is silent, the clock is ticking, but you're sweating bullets because you don't understand a single question on the test. So you come up with a super risky idea, which is to cheat. And for a second, it actually works. Until you slip up in a crazy way and get caught. And when you get caught cheating in my school, the punishment is that you get suspended for it. But what happened next was something I never expected. So let me explain exactly what happened. It all started during finals week, which is basically the 5 most stressful days of your whole life. It's the last week of school where you take all your tests to decide what your final grade will be. Like, I don't care if you're a doctor doing open heart surgery, Messi in the World Cup final, nothing can compare to the nerves of that final week of school. Because everything is decided during this week. If you do good on these tests, it could set you up for your whole future. But if you do bad, get ready to rev up those fryers, buddy, because you are cooked. So for obvious reasons, when finals week came around, I was terrified because I knew how important it was. But there was one final test in particular that made me way more nervous than any other class. Spanish. Because for a lot of these classes in school, you can pass by simply just having a little bit of common knowledge or paying attention just a little bit. Like, I can pass English easily as long as I make up a random story that the teacher will like. But when it comes to Spanish, you actually have to pay attention to get a good grade. So the night before my final exam in Spanish class, let's just say I was not feeling very confident. I'm in bed with Quizlet open on my phone, trying to study, but it turns out that not paying attention in class for 6 months and then trying to learn all the information the night before the test doesn't really work. So I just accepted that I'm not going to have enough time to learn everything that's going to be on the test. I didn't know what I was going to do to pass it, but I knew I had to do something because I could not afford to fail this. So the next morning, my alarm goes off and I sit up immediately after hearing that PTS-inducing sound like a war veteran after hearing an explosion. And the second I get up, I'm already shaking. I do my morning routine and then I look at myself in the mirror and say a pep talk. Okay, you've got this. We've been through worse. We can do this. No, we haven't. Name something worse than this. The time we accidentally went to school wearing SpongeBob underwear. We're literally doing that right now. Yeah, you're right, aren't you? Dang it. Eventually, I got to school, and during finals week, the hallways just have a different energy. Kids are whispering to each other, flipping flashcards, doing that weird thing where they're reading notes out loud as if they're summoning demons. You'll even see the kids you least expected to be studying doing it. Like, tell me why I even saw the football players that think red is spelled L-S-T-E-R studying. The day goes by, and I'm taking my finals in my other classes. I was a pretty good student when it came to every other subject, so I wasn't really worried about those. But I still had that last class of the day that I had been dreading. That terrifying Español test. Lunch comes around, and I do the worst thing possible. Try to eat. I buy a burrito because I think it'll make me better at Spanish by osmosis or something like that. I clearly nailed my science test, as you can see. But all that burrito does is make me have to fart. I reopen Quizlet while I'm eating, hoping that I can just learn a little bit of the information. I'm talking to myself out loud like, Yo hablo, I speak. Tú hablas, you speak. Él, ella, usted habla. He, she, you speaks. I keep trying to trick myself into thinking that I know what I'm actually reading. In my head, I'm saying, okay, if I can just understand part of what the question's saying, I can give the closest answer and probably get some points. The bell finally rings for lunch to end, and now it was game time. On my way to my final test of the year, and the most important one, the one that decides what will happen with my future. If I get a good grade on the test, I easily pass the class, I graduate, everyone's cheering and celebrating. But if I get a bad grade, I probably fail and have to retake it, and I'm cooked, and everyone thinks I'm stupid, and my parents are not proud of me, and this and that. I step into my Spanish teacher's classroom, which, by the way, always smell way better than any of the other classrooms. The chairs are lined up in rows so that we can't cheat on each other. My friend and I make eye contact across the room, both knowing how important this test was. Even though he literally spoke fluent Spanish because his parents were from Mexico. Don't know why he was in the same class as me. But the final bell rings, signaling that class has officially started, and immediately the teacher starts handing out tests. She tells the whole class that we will have 50 minutes to take it, and to make sure we keep our eyes on our own test and that we don't cheat, or else we will be punished. She hands out the finals like she's dealing Uno cards. Face down on the desk. Once everyone got one, she gave her pregame speech. Phones away, no talking, eyes on your paper. If I see or hear any device, you get a 0 on the exam. You now may begin. Quickly, I flip the paper over, trying to make the most of the time we have. I scan the first question, quickly realize I have no idea what it says, and say to myself, okay, that's just one question, no big deal, let's move on to the next ones. But after looking at the first 10 questions in a row, I realized I have no idea what any of them are asking. Mi no hablo español! And this is where I started to feel sick, because in that moment I knew I was about to fail that test. But not only that, I was about to not graduate. Because when I say fail, I don't mean I was gonna get like a 60% or a 70% on it. No, I was talking like 4%, or you could say quattro. See, I know a little bit, you know what I'm talking about. Hey. But when I realized I was gonna be cooked, I started thinking about what other options I had. I could try filling out random answers, hoping that I'm right on maybe half of them, or I could try plan B. Which, to be clear, was a horrible plan I never should have done, and I blame on the fact that my frontal lobe is not fully developed. Now, what was plan B? Well, to put it simply, the plan was to cheat. And don't get it twisted, I'm not a natural cheater. I will sneak a side eye over at my friend's test every once in a while, but like full-on cheating, the thing I was about to do, that was not me. Because this plan was intense, and this is what it was. Step 1. Read the question in Spanish. Step 2. Whisper it to myself quietly as if I was just talking to myself. Step 3. Let my phone, which would be on my lap, hear what I was saying and translate it into English for me so I could understand the question. Step 4. Answer the question. I did a test run of this plan the night before, just in case I needed it. I whispered into my phone under a blanket as if I was telling ghost stories. And even though I was talking super quietly, what do you know? It worked. The phone listened, the phone translated. I felt like a genius. Now, as I'm sitting in class, I slide the phone into my hoodie pocket. And I have the speaker facing up towards me so it can catch everything I'm saying. The only reason this had a chance of working was because I sat in the very back of class to where the teacher really couldn't see me. So if I played my cards right, I would never get caught. I read the first question of the test and murmured it out loud as if I was talking to the voices in my head. The phone listens, and I quickly see it translate into English. The excitement I felt when I saw that it was working couldn't be put into words. This was the first time I felt like I could actually pass this test. I wasn't gonna have to work at McDonald's after all. I low-key kind of want to work there anyway though, because I would just be stealing all the fries. I keep repeating this strategy for all the questions on the test, and I'm flying through it now. I'm starting to become fully bilingual by this point, but unfortunately, some things are just too good to be true. And cheating on the final exam was one of those things. Because as I'm about 75% of the way through the test, doing the strategy I've been doing the whole time, I whisper the question into my phone, but then unlike the other times I did this time I hear a... Everyone looks up immediately when they hear a phone go off. And I try to quickly hide it before anyone realizes it was me, but before I could do that, my phone, in the loudest voice possible, goes, "Cuánto cuesta?" It said the words I repeated to it out loud. I accidentally pressed the speak button on it. And right when that noise went off, time stopped. It's like the sound sucked all the air out of the room. Heads are snapping up in unison, all looking at me. Every eye finds me like I'm the only lit candle in a blackout. My soul leaves my body and starts walking to the principal's office already. I finally glance up, and the teacher is giving me the most terrifying stare I've ever seen. It wasn't of anger, not yet at least. It was the look of a person who feels like she just got disrespected. She felt disrespected at the fact that someone thought they could actually cheat without her catching them. And I almost did. But she says nothing. She just gets up while maintaining eye contact with me and walks right over to my desk. Then she extends her hand, signaling for me to hand my phone over to her, and I do. She taps the screen, and the translation app is open. And all my secrets were revealed. A bunch of words and phrases I translated are showing up on the screen. ¿Qué significa? Traduce. ¿Cómo se dice? My classmates are all whispering to each other now, debating what my punishment will be. Then, my teacher finally speaks. "Tyler, step into the hallway, please." I was doing the stanky leg on accident because I could barely feel my legs as I'm walking into that hallway. She closes the classroom door behind her and faces towards me. But before I tell you what happened next, there's one secret about this story I purposely haven't told you guys yet. The teacher of this Spanish class was also my best friend's mom. This is a woman whose house I've been inside 50 times or so. She's cooked me pizza rolls, taken me to Disneyland, and that made this scenario a whole lot more terrifying, and you'll see exactly why. Because when she walked me out of class, she didn't yell at me or look super angry, she just looked disappointed. And this is how the conversation goes. "Tyler, why would you do this?" "I'm sorry, I wasn't understanding any of the questions, and you know I can't afford to fail this test." "So you thought cheating was the best option?" "No, but I didn't know what else to do." "You do know what the consequences are for this, right?" "Yeah. Suspension." We just kind of stand there in silence for a second, and I can tell I put her in a predicament she did not want to have to deal with. Because if you put yourself in her shoes, she had a really tough decision to make now. Do you suspend your son's best friend, knowing that you might ruin his future? That could make things a bit awkward, but rules are rules, and she had to obey them. So she said to me, "Go sit back down, do not touch your phone, and give me your test." I shuffle back inside, and the class is pretending not to stare, but I can feel they are. I go up to her desk to put my test on it, and as I do that, she says, "I'll let you know tomorrow what the consequences are going to be for this." Eventually, the bell for that class rings. The hallway floods with students, and all of a sudden, I became a celebrity. All the people from that class are coming up to me asking what happened.
Hey, so are you getting suspended?
Bro, you are so cooked.
Did you really just try using Google Translate on a final?
What's gonna happen to you?
That question, I didn't have an answer to, and I was terrified to find out. Because when I turned my test in, all the teacher said was, she's gonna think about it. So once that school day ended, I just went home, laid in my bed, and thought about that the whole night. I didn't even tell my parents about it because I wasn't sure what the consequences were gonna be yet. I couldn't think about anything else the whole day, and all I knew was I was terrified to go back to that school tomorrow. Nighttime comes around, and everything just gets worse. I lay in bed trying to craft up the perfect apology like an influencer getting canceled. I take full responsibility. This is not who I am. I've learned from this, and I will be a better person because of it. I even considered trying to recite my whole apology in Spanish, but then I thought to myself, if I couldn't learn Spanish in 6 months, I don't think I'm gonna do it in one night. The next morning comes around, and I walk into a school like a man that's walking into a job interview when the company knows that he lied on his resume. Once again, one of the worst parts of this day was having to wait so long just to get to that Spanish class because it was at the end of school. So I was just distracted in all my other classes. Finally, the bell from lunch rings and the time has arrived. Was my teacher gonna go easy on me because I was homies with her son? Or was she gonna follow the rules, suspend me, and possibly ruin my future, even though I deserved it? I enter Spanish class and the energy is tense. Well, for me it was, but not everyone else because they already took their final. When the bell rings, the teacher starts speaking. Before we begin today's class, I need to address what happened yesterday. You could hear a pin drop, and the class does that collective inhale again. She glances over at me when she says that, then glances back, and everyone in the room looks right at me. Then she goes, "Our policy on academic honesty is clear. Cheating will result in a 0, and on a final exam will result in suspension. And I'm aware that yesterday, some of you witnessed or heard one of your classmates cheating. Wonder who that could have been." Everyone looks even closer at me now. I spent last night considering what the right course of action would be that would be fair to you guys and to the student. So here's what we're gonna do. Obviously, Tyler cannot retake the final exam after cheating on it. But to this point, he has never shown any signs of cheating before. So I'm gonna let you guys decide what you think is fair. You have 2 options. A, he can be punished the normal way for cheating on this and go to the principal's office and let them decide, which would have resulted in suspension. Or B, I can give him a new final, which will be apologizing to all you guys and me for cheating in Spanish. Obviously, even though there was probably some haters in that class that wanted me suspended, everyone wanted to see me make a fool of myself, so they all chose option B. And I'm thinking to myself, this is like best case scenario. I can do an apology. I could show remorse. I could do Oscars level crying if that's what I need to do. I cried during the Shrek movie. You think I can't pull this off? But then she said the part where it all made sense. Now you may think an apology as a final isn't fair, but I can assure you it will be. Because the apology has to be said in full Spanish, and if it's not said correctly, he will be disciplined further. Which I'm assuming she also meant I would be suspended by that. The class starts buzzing with excitement because they know I'm about to embarrass myself. They've all heard me trying to speak Spanish in that class. They knew I had no chance. So I was wondering how long I was gonna have to prepare this apology, and then the teacher said I would be doing it at the end of class, which meant I only had 30 minutes to make the apology and memorize it, making sure that I don't mess it up at all, or else I would be suspended. The next 30 minutes are the most anxiety-inducing minutes of my life, which is starting to become a trend, because since this was the day after our final exam, no one else in class was actually doing anything. So everyone was just messing around on their phones while I was studying. The worst part about this was, I couldn't even use Google Translate to make this apology. I just had to use all our notes and textbooks to come up with one. And she said it had to be at least a minute long. I pretty much knew I was cooked, but I had no choice. I had to try. After probably 20 minutes of trying to find some words and phrases that could make a good apology, I had it written. I didn't know if it actually made any sense, but I wrote it. Now, I needed to memorize it. So I spent the next 10 minutes sweating, saying it to myself over and over and over and over and over and over and over again, trying to all get it correctly in one go, which I never did. I couldn't get past the first 2 sentences without forgetting the rest. I had no chance. Eventually, the time she gave me to make and study this apology came to an end. And now, it was game time again. World Cup final, Game 7 of the finals. It was now or never for me. Either I somehow nailed this apology that I couldn't remember 50% of, or I kissed my future goodbye. The teacher looks at me and says, "Tyler,
Are you ready?
No. I say no, but that's not really what she was asking, so she makes me go up to the front of the class anyway. I face everybody, and my eyes do a quick scan of the room. Everyone in the class is all looking like they're about to watch a movie with a 100% Rotten Tomatoes score. They're on the edge of their seat looking like this. I take a deep breath, and then I go, Hola. Hice trampa porque tenía miedo de reprobar. Me doy cuenta de que me hizo daño a mí mismo. Yo, te respeto. No quiero suspender me. That was the only part I actually memorized because I knew it said, I don't want to be suspended. Voy a tratar de ser mejor. No más trampa. Gracias. After I finish speaking, there's silence for about 5 seconds, and then the class erupts. Laughter's going off. Fake applause. A kid in the back stands up like I just said the speech of my life. Someone's whistling like they want me to do an encore, and my face looks like the sun. I look to the teacher, who, remember, is literally my best friend's mom, and I'm just waiting to see her reaction. To my shock, she's smiling. She gives me a nod and then goes, Gracias, Tyler. Senate. So although the vibe seemed good, I knew I kind of blew that, and I didn't know what my punishment was going to be. A couple minutes later, the class bell rings, and as everyone is leaving, once again, the teacher tells me to come to her desk. All of a sudden, I was shaking again. I knew this was going to be the moment where I find out what my future is going to look like. Was I going to be committing to Harvard University, or was I going to be going to Burger King U? Well, I found the answer out when I went up to the teacher, and she told me to take a seat. At this point, it was just me and her in the class, so it was dead silent. I could feel the tension in the air, possibly because I always thought my friend's mom was hot, so I was nervous to be around her alone. I've also never said that out loud before, so I hope he's not watching and I hope she's not watching. But then she took a deep breath and said, Tyler, you and I both know the policy for cheating is suspension. I nod my head. And with all the other students knowing that you cheated, it would be totally unfair for me to show favoritism and not punish you for it. I put my head down knowing I'm cooked. But with that being said, I figured you and all the other students would much rather see you try to do an apology in Spanish than get suspended. And I said, yeah, of course, I'll do it 100 more times if you need me to. And then she finishes off with, so I've decided that your apology in front of the whole class is enough, and you won't be suspended. I thanked her 50 times for letting me off easy, but I still had one question. Thank you so much, thank you. But wait, so what score did I get on my final? Oh, no, you weren't actually getting graded on that. You cheated on your final, so you failed it. I'm not changing that part. So once again, I think I'm cooked and I'm gonna fail. But then she says, but I'll raise your grade enough so that you pass the class. I'm looking up in the air, just thinking, I can't believe this is my life right now. I do not deserve all this good grace, but I was getting it. Was this nepotism? Yeah. Can nepotism kind of suck sometimes? Yeah. But when it's happening to you, it's kind of awesome. But anyways, don't cheat in school, guys. Or you might end up like me.